between the two of us, we had $5,000 saved up, and that's what we used to open our firm. And one of the first things we did, and I actually think is really smart, is we went and met with other lawyers in the community where we are and asked them, you guys have established firms, how did you do this? And so we got some really great mentoring advice. And so we found an office space where you could rent just your back office, but you had a communal conference room, because we couldn't afford conference room furniture. We didn't have enough money for that. But clients coming in didn't know the conference room didn't belong to us. It was just part of our rent. It was just small, smart decisions there at the beginning. The hardest part for us was just a lot of marketing mistakes.
Welcome to World of Marketing Podcast, a Foster Web Marketing production. Here's your host, Tom Foster.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the World of Marketing, where I, Tom Foster, talk with legal leaders about, yes, you guessed it, marketing mindset and the growth of law firm businesses. This episode is brought to you by Foster Web Marketing. Since the internet was born, Foster has been the premier provider of customized websites, SEO, video, and strategic solutions for elite law firms. Our unparalleled web technology and systems set the gold standard in the industry, catering exclusively to a discerning clientele who demand the best. We are in a series centered on trailblazing women transforming their industries, featuring candid conversations with dynamic women who share their journeys, challenges, and innovative strategies for success. Whether you're an aspiring marketer or an established leader, this podcast will be a resource for inspiration, empowerment, and expert tips from some of our brightest women in their fields. And today, I'm thrilled to introduce our next guest, Chasity Stratton, co-founder of Stratton Reynolds, a firm dedicated to providing compassionate, client-focused legal services across South Carolina. With over 14 years of experience, Chastity has built a thriving practice that prioritizes kindness and expertise, customizing plans for each client, and even involving family members to ensure everyone understands the journey ahead. This year alone, they opened 2 new offices and increased revenue by over 30%. Let's dive into her experiences, insights, and the mission that drives her work. Chastity, welcome to the World of Marketing. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
How was that for an introduction?
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My team put that together. I got a great team. You got a great team too.
We do.
So let's go back. All right. So first of all, what kind of law does Stratton Reynolds practice?
Yeah, so we are an estate planning and elder law firm. So my practice really focuses on probate avoidance. We do some probate administration, and then a lot of special needs trust and public benefits planning, like Medicaid and VA benefits.
Oh, very good. Mm-hmm. So how long have you been doing it?
So I've been practicing 15 years. I have owned my own firm for almost 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, now that's cool. So you were on your own for a year, and then you're like, I'm doing it.
Yeah. My business partner and I both had other jobs that we got straight out of law school, and they were not great at the time. So it was 2009. Obviously, the economy was not doing well at that point in time. And so lawyers were just taking whatever they could get. And both of us were very unhappy in our jobs. And I'll never forget, we went and had coffee together. We've been friends through undergrad. And we're like, do you like your job? No, I don't like my job. Well, let's do something about it. And so we, jumped off a cliff and opened Stratton Reynolds.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so what were you doing? Well, first of all, why did you want to become a lawyer?
So that actually is an interesting question. I did not come from a family of lawyers. My dad and my grandfather were both Baptist preachers, truthfully. I came from that kind of background. I don't even think I knew any lawyers. I just knew that I liked to talk, and I was pretty good at arguing. And so I didn't like blood, so I didn't want to be a doctor. And I was like, okay, well, I'll be a lawyer, without really knowing what it was like. And so for me, I got into law school, had this very clear vision of what I wanted to do, did well, got a job over the summer at a very large products liability firm, and thinking that's what I wanted to do. I was like, I'm going to be a defense attorney. This is going to be great. And I hated every second of that. But I had just paid $30,000 to go to my first year of law school. And I'm like, have I screwed up my entire life? by doing something that I actually hate. And so I went back my second year and started looking at other avenues, what else was available to be a lawyer, and really started taking some wills, trusts, and estates, some tax classes, and fell in love with this area of the law.
It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That is what okay, so that's great. So what you did was while you were in law school, were you temping at this place?
I was, yeah. And it was very prestigious to get a job at this particular firm.
Right.
They only took 5 or 6 students out of, your first class. And, but it was miserable. I was basically sending
Well,
letters to
but
people.
what a great thing for you to do because
Yeah,
allowed you to stick your foot in the water, right? Tip your
that's
toe in the
right.
water and see if you liked it or not. And you
Mm-hmm.
discovered "Nah, this 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 PI business is not for me,
That's
or
right.
defense or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff, that area of law, no, I don't like it. Right?
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I tried some other stuff. I did some family law and children's rights stuff. And all of that I think is incredibly important. But emotionally, that was just not a good fit
Right.
for me. And so, like I said, I started taking tax and estate planning classes, started clerking for one of my professors there, and just I fell in love with it. There's
That
something
is
about,
great.
yeah, the orderly of it, to be able to put a plan in place and watch that plan work. There's
Yeah.
just so much satisfaction in that.
Right. It's like, and here's the thing, I say this all the time. Nobody calls a lawyer happy, right?
True.
Right. Nobody's like, woohoo, except estate planning lawyers a little bit different.
Hmm.
You're talking about it's a different relationship, it's a happier relationship
Yeah.
than it is and less dramatic, I would say, more professional, more business-like
Mhm.
than being a PI lawyer or criminal lawyer or defense lawyer and all that, where you have to get emotionally involved with the client. It's,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? On that level.
Hmm. I tell people all the time, how many lawyers do you know that get sent flowers by their clients or get thank you cards regularly? I feel incredibly lucky because those things happen all the time.
Yeah.
It's just a wonderful relationship that you get to build with the client that's not in that adversarial world.
Yeah. It's really good. Well, good for you for figuring that out. And how old were you when you figured that out?
So I would have been 23 to 24, somewhere right
That's
around there. I went
really good, Chastity,
straight. Yeah.
to be able to, right? You have kids,
Yeah,
right?
I do. Yeah, I do.
How old are your kids?
So I only have one. I have a daughter. Her name's Annabelle. She's 11.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So think about that, like in 10 more years, your daughter is going to be thinking like making those big decisions.
yeah.
You know, I have 5 kids. I think about that, and their decisions. I've got
Hmm.
3 older ones and then 2 younger ones. But anyway, it's great that you did that. All right. So you become an estate planning attorney. How did you build the business? Like, how did you build, like, you guys just said, I don't want to work over doing that stuff. I would rather just be an estate planner. And you guys just you built a little house and you stuck your thing in the lawn and you said, we're ready to open for business.
We did.
That's so fantastic. I think like what you had $5,000 to your
We
name,
did.
and
Yep.
that
I
was it.
had, between the two of us, we had $5,000 saved up, and that's what we used to open our firm. And so much of it was, one of the first things we did, and I actually think is really smart, is we went and met with other lawyers in the community where we are and asked them, you guys have established firms. How did you do this? And so we got some really great mentoring advice from some other lawyers in the area that weren't doing estate planning. Actually, one of the best mentors we had, he was a criminal law attorney, but he sort of walked us through what it was like to hang your own sign and what that process looked like. And so we found an office space where you could rent just your back office, but you had a communal conference room because we couldn't afford conference room furniture. We didn't have enough money for that. But clients coming in didn't know the conference room didn't belong to us, that it was communal. So they're blown away by this beautiful conference room that was just part of our rent. it was just small, smart decisions there at the beginning. The hardest part for us was just a lot of marketing mistakes. I think a lot of young lawyers make that. They get tied into, like we did radio commercials at some point once we had a little more money coming in. We did some magazine advertising. And I'm not saying those things can't work. I know for a lot of firms that stuff does work. But for estate planning, that really led just a lot of crazy people calling us.
Yeah.
With estate planning, you're looking more for clients who are maybe already established with a financial advisor or know that they're looking for certain things. And so there was a lot of trial and error at the beginning. I mean, honestly, I would say our first 3 years it was a struggle. It was a struggle to keep the doors open and keep things going. We hired our first employee. I'll never forget. I've never been more terrified knowing that somebody else's livelihood depended on me bringing money in. It just was, it was very scary, but at the same time, you start seeing those little things start paying off, and we found where the marketing dollars worked. We found out what worked, and it's been a crazy 14-year ride, truthfully.
So those first 3 years you were talking about, it's fascinating because your plight is so similar to many other law firms. They start out and they just spend stupid money on marketing because they don't know what they're doing. Right. You're not taught how to market. It was good that you went to your mentors for the business, the lawyer's business, and he hooked you up that way. That was smart, and I recommend that for everybody else, is that you talk to other lawyers that have done it before you. Get in a coaching group, get in a mastermind group. That's what you want to do. But it's the stupid marketing. It's always that. And it's not that there's anything wrong with doing radio. Radio can work. Magazines can work, as you said, but if you don't have the right campaign, if you don't have the right message, you're going to bring in the wrong people. And that's what it comes down to, is that you've got to have the right campaign and message for your perfect client. So did you just gut it out, like just build a list and just, is that how it worked?
Yeah. So what ended up being our most effective marketing tool at the beginning, when we just didn't have a whole lot of money and we were finding what worked, is we would take financial advisors out for lunch and meet with them and say, hey, listen, this is what we offer. Do you have any clients you can, send our way? We'd love to help them with their planning, which is a scary thing to go do. You're meeting oftentimes with, people who are vastly more experienced than you are, and you're in your mid to late 20s at this point, trying to convince them to send their clients to you to do planning. But enough of them did. They sent people to us, and it just has built from there, truthfully, we've got a great referral network. We found that a website, honestly, a great website is so important for what we do. That's part of me plugging you guys because y'all help us with that. But we get a lot of traffic, especially around the holidays and stuff, from people coming and seeing mom or dad for the first time in a while and going, oh goodness, they are in much worse state than we thought that they were. But they don't know anybody in the area where we are. And so they Google something. You got to have that presence there. And so just building those personal relationships and also having a good web presence kind of created a perfect storm for us of good referral sources.
That's fantastic. So, and I'm so happy that we've been helpful to you in that. And you're right. I mean, and you're on it. It's very smart. And so the practice itself, you guys have a different, you treat people differently, right? Like, tell us a little bit about that. Like, how do you?
Yeah, I mean, again, and it might be because I didn't come from a background of lawyers, but I think that my number one complaint I hear from clients when they come in and they've been with a different lawyer is that lawyer felt very cold and not personal, and they wouldn't return phone calls, and they didn't communicate well. And I never wanted that to be the type of firm that we have. With estate planning, oftentimes we're meeting with that client, but then they end up passing at some point in the future, and we're meeting with their kids and their loved ones. And we want to encourage that kind of relationship. We want the clients to feel like, hey, we're a resource here for you. We want to help you. And part of that is getting to know their situation, getting to know their family if they want us to. I mean, obviously there's clients that have strained relationships with families and such, but for us, it's building those relationships that become so important. I mean, like I said, I know things about my clients. I had a client call yesterday. She's getting a new rental property and she just wanted advice of should she put an LLC or not? You know, the fact that she just picks up the phone and I'm the person she's going to call and ask that. Yes, it's legal advice technically, but it has nothing to do with her will or her trust. It's just her saying, how do I structure this? Those kind of relationships are really important to us.
That's fantastic. And that's truly, what works. I mean, you got to treat people right. And it's amazing to me how everybody knows that. But people still treat people terribly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially lawyers. I get it. We're busy on some level. I understand the sometimes putting things off, right? If it's not a priority right now, but people don't understand that. They don't understand why they're not a priority. And so you have to make them one.
Right. So, legacy is a theme for your work. And you've mentioned before that legacy is more than just material things. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, again, stuff is stuff, right? I mean, yes, a lot of my clients have worked hard and we want to help them preserve what they've worked hard for. But at the end of the day, part of that is them structuring it in a way that's not going to cause conflict, right? Or at least try not to cause conflict in families. And so walking through those decisions, I mean, I had a case where the court had asked me to be an executor in an estate where these people were fighting. And it was two brothers, and they were fighting because one of them had lived in the house with mom, helped take care of her, but her will just left everything to the two kids 50-50. And now this guy doesn't have a house anymore because his brother wants to sell it. It's that kind of stuff of just thinking through and asking the question.
That's just cruel for the mother to do that to them.
Right. And she probably didn't think anything of it. She probably just went into a lawyer and said, hey, I got two kids. I want to leave things 50-50. But it doesn't always work that way, So walking through those scenarios with people and trying to combat those issues before they come up, trying to provide solutions of what she could have done instead. Was there a possibility of leaving more liquidity here or giving the son who lived in the house a life estate, just structuring in a way that made sense.
So you have grown significantly. And why, how come? Why is that?
Yeah. So with estate planning, and this is something TC is my business partner. TC and I have talked about from the beginning. It's always been our vision to have a presence throughout the state of South Carolina. Our first office and our main office is actually in Lexington. It's a suburb of Columbia, fairly affluent area as far as South Carolina is concerned. But in the marketing areas you're not normally going to see an estate planning firm with one location that's going to have 100 lawyers in it, unless you're in Chicago or something. There's just not that kind of business. So to increase the business, you sort of need satellite offices. It's just a natural growth of what happens. Okay. And so it was probably 8 years ago that we opened our first in Aiken. And since then, we've opened one in Batesburg. We've opened one in Bluffton, which is down near Hilton Head, for people who are familiar with South Carolina. And we just bought our Columbia office. So we have one now in downtown Columbia as well. So part of growth is just a necessity of expanding throughout the state. And then part of it also is we've hired attorneys and staff that live in those areas. They're plugged into those communities, and that's hugely important to have that presence there. Because it's one thing for a girl from Columbia or Lexington to show up at Bluffton to do something, but the people in Bluffton don't know me, but they know my attorney, Andy, who lives down there. She's involved in the community. And so it's just been a great growth resource for us to expand that way.
Well, great job managing that.
That's a huge part of our jobs today. TC and I talk about all the time the balance between managing the firm versus doing the actual work. And we're at a point now where we're having to pull back maybe a little bit from the actual work and more of the management part of it.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Yeah, you're just going to end up just running the firms. Well, how many lawyers are there?
So there's 5 of us total. There's my business partner and I, and then we've got 3 associate attorneys right now, and actually just posted an ad today for a 4th one. So
Wow.
hopefully we will have another
Growing,
associate attorney.
That's fantastic, Chastity.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you, and so your wonderful accomplishments, you and your partner. What a great job that you have done, and what a testament, right? And really, anybody can do this. That's the thing. It's like all you have to do is put your nose to the grindstone and do it. It's not. It's hard. It's hard work, right?
It is, absolutely. Yeah. It's worth it.
It's totally worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the future for you guys?
So, like I said, we just opened Columbia. We're trying to get that off the ground, which Columbia and Lexington, like I said, Lexington's kind of a suburb, but people who live in Columbia don't want to drive over the river to Lexington. So they're definitely 2 separate entities. So Columbia is getting off the ground. At some point, we would like to have, I think, more offices in toward the coast, toward like Myrtle Beach, Pawleys Island, that area, and also up in the upstate toward like Greenville. But continued growth, continuing to provide excellent service to our clients, continuing to build those relationships, and then also just being a good wife and mom throughout all of that as well is important to me. So
Right. Yeah, you got to balance that.
that's right.
It's difficult, but well worth it.
100%.
Hey, you know Dirk Derrick?
No. Should I know that name?
Yeah. He's a big PI lawyer, client of mine, Derrick Law Firm. And
I do. Hang on. I do know that name. Yep.
Yeah. So I need to introduce you guys because he could probably send you some referrals.
That'd be great. We do a lot with PI attorneys, especially setting up special needs trusts and such for settlements that come in.
He's a great attorney, and he's got not is he just a great attorney. And we've grown him all over South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Started out in Myrtle Beach. Now I don't even know how many, 8 maybe offices. But anyway, he does mock trials, like he does that jury trial stuff. So he works with a lot of attorneys. So there's a lot of that would be a good relationship for you guys.
Yeah, I'd love to meet him.
And for everybody, by the way, Dirk Derrick, he's the man down there in South Carolina in terms of PI. And Chastity, you are the woman down there. When it comes to estate planning, Stratton and Reynolds, wow, what a story and what a success story. I love it. And you are a powerful woman and you have done it. And look at your daughters looking up to you and seeing what her mom's doing. So proud of her mom, I'm sure. It's so great. Chastity, thank you so much for being on the World of Marketing today.
Thank you so much for having me.
For sure. All right, everybody. Chastity and Tom on the World of Marketing. You guys have yourself a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.